Every runner has their kryptonite, a part of their body that breaks down the most during running, causing all sorts of niggles and pains. Mine for a long time was shin splints, which made running not enjoyable at all. And it made me wonder, will I ever be able to run pain-free again, just like everyone else that I was running with? But after 2 years of suffering from them and searching the web for answers on everything to do with shin splints, which some of the time I would find some very unhelpful things, such as, oh, just stop running and that solves it. But the problem is, I want to still run. So that wasn't a solution at all. But don't worry, I'm not going to give you that stuff today. I'm going to be giving you the knowledge that I learned through trial and error, dealing with these shin splints, and give you what I learned to cure them and to start running pain-free and start enjoying your running again, which that's what this video is going to be about. So coming up in this video, I'm going to be covering what shin splints are, what the science tells us about shin splints, what causes shin splints, and the short-term and long-term fixes for shin splints. So let's get into it. Now, a quick disclaimer before we continue. All tips and information that I provide are from my own personal treatment journey. And from information that I have researched from the internet. So if you have any medical concerns and you're seeking medical advice, I advise you to seek the appropriate medical health professionals, as I'm not a physiotherapist or a medical health practitioner. So check them out first. So, what are shin splints? Shin splints, also known as tibial stress syndrome, is a common overuse injury for runners due to the high impact of the sport, jumping from one leg to the other leg continuously, causing inflammation of the muscles, tendons, and bone tissue surrounding the tibial, that is the shin bone. So there are two types of shin splints that you can get. So one, the most common, is medial tibial stress syndrome that occurs on the medial, so that's the inside part of the shin bone. Typically, that is at the lower 2/3 of the inside edge of the shin bone closest to your ankle. The other form that you can get is anterior tibial stress syndrome. Now that occurs at the front side of the shin on your leg. So what is the science behind shin splints? Well, to explain this further, the current accepted scientific theory is when we overwork the anterior tibialis, that is the muscle on the front side of the shin, or the soleus, the deep calf muscle, which connects to your Achilles tendon. So when you overwork these muscles of our shin, they start to tug on the fiscal. So that's a connective tissue on expandable glad wrap-like covering, which then tugs on the posterium, a thin layer of tissue above the tibial, your shin bone. So this causes inflammation of the area. And since that area, the periosterium, contains a lot of nerve endings, that creates the pain that you're experiencing. Now, over time, if these injuries aren't appropriately addressed and you just continue running through that pain, it can develop into a stress fracture. As since your anterior tibial and soleus muscles are broken down so much that now your tibial shin bone is now absorbing more of the shock, which can start creating cracks in the bone. Now, what causes shin splints? Shin splints in runners is mostly caused by a lack of strength and conditioning of the muscles, tendons, and bone tissue around the shin bone due to a sudden increase in load and intensity. So when those parts of the body aren't adapted to that new load that you're applying on it. So some of these examples of new load and new intensity that you could be applying on your shin bones are most commonly form is an increase in your mileage too soon or your intensity. So for me, when I started running 2 years ago and started applying myself, I went from running 11.4K a week to running 48.3K a week. Now that's a big increase. And then I started running every single day, which the mileage only went up each week from that point. So yeah, that caused shin splints for me. And then for my sister, as a beginner, when she first started running, she went from doing 1 sprint session per week at Aubrey Athletics, and those sprint sessions weren't running far at all, to all of a sudden doing 2 Aubrey Athletics middle distance sessions a week, plus a long distance Dawn League session. And then on top of that, at that period of time, she was rehearsing for an upcoming musical where she played as a ensemble dancer in that musical, which that involved a lot of jumping and the movements that she had to practice. So all that culminated to shin splints, an overload. Now, it can also be caused by repeatedly running on hard surfaces like tarmac on the roads or concrete on the footpaths, causing a lot of extra impact on the shin area, which is the area that absorbs a lot of the shock when we run our lower legs. As our feet hit the ground, it just channels up the leg from there. Now, another cause is wearing poor footwear, which does not provide the cushion and support for your feet and shins when running. So resulting in your shins absorbing most of the shock of running instead of your shoes. Now, this is something that I've been guilty of. I would continue wearing the same trainers for my runs that I've been using for a year, and I've at least done probably 600K in, which that's what they say when they say you should change your shoes, which that resulted in my shoes, which I'm going to show you right now, losing a lot of the tread. So the tread, this part right here of the shoe, and also wearing away a lot of the cushion and the sole of the bottom as well. So as you can see, this tread here, now this tread used to be a little bit higher and actually on this side as well. But as you can see in the camera, it's smooth, which that's where I've been striking. So yeah, that wore quite a lot of it away. And also you'll notice it's not very squishy, it's very hard. So when you're wearing worn out shoes like this, you're basically carrying around a concrete slab on your feet. So that can result in shin splints. And this is an example of a new shoe that I got, which as you can see, it's very much more cushion. So it's easier to squeeze the sole, and the tread is not worn out at all. It's all nice and thick. Now, another reason is you could have a collapsed foot arch. So positioning your foot to overpronate, aka flat feet. So this causes your tibial bone to twist and the muscles of the lower leg to overstretch and work more than they were designed for, resulting in inflammation of the soft tissues that attach to the tibial, your shin bone. Now that is something that I used to have a lot as well. Now, short-term fixes for shin splints. So one is, the one that I would recommend the most is muscle scraping. So muscle scraping along the inner sides of the shin bone where the pain is located, where your discomfort is located. and you may feel some bumps in that area, which that's just the scar tissue and inflammation which we're wanting to release. So once you've found that area of your shin, so for me, I would look at my medial side of my shin, because that's where mine is located. I would start applying some massage cream or lotion, which you can use anything you want, but I use Karma Rub, one that my mum gave me. That's what I apply on mine. And you want to rub it over the area, so then when you start massaging out those bumps, which you're going to be doing that in a circular motion, you apply the cream so that it doesn't start pulling on your hairs. Yeah, I would massage over those bumps once I've identified them for about 15 seconds per area. I'll do that 3 times, and in between that, I would just apply some rest by just moving down the chain a little bit, and then I'll come up again to do them. Now, if you find that, that is causing you too much discomfort to do that, I would encourage you to not continue doing that, because it's only going to make it worse. But in most cases, if your shin splints aren't chronic, then this would probably fix your shin splints straight away. Now, if you're finding that your hands aren't able to apply as much tension as you believe that you need to get out those bumps, to thin them out, then you would start using a spoon instead of your hands, which I haven't personally had to use that method. But if you need to, or you're curious about learning a little bit more about that, I would encourage you to check out one of my references that I've linked below in the description to another video someone else made, where they go into a little bit more detail about using the spoon method. Now, another short-term fix is taking a few days off running. So this gives your body time to rest and let inflammation of the area decrease and repair itself. But like I said, that's a short-term fix because you want to keep running, right? Anyway, another one is ice to decrease the inflammation of the area. And if you don't find the ice is doing the trick too much for you, then you could apply a wheat heat bag, or just any form of heat, if you find that it feels better, to relieve some of the symptoms, as it would increase the blood flow to that area. Now, another one is purchasing new running shoes. So like I mentioned before, modern shoes are designed to have that cushion and support for us when we run. So buying a new pair of running shoes may solve a lot of that, it may relieve a lot of that impact that your shins are experiencing if you have an old pair of running shoes you're using. Now, another one is reducing your volume. So in the case for my sister before, I advised her to only do those 2 Aubrey Athletics sessions and drop the Dawn League middle distance and with long distance session, and use more of that time to put into strengthening the muscles, tendons, and ligaments around the shin bone, which is the root cause of the problem, which we'll talk about very shortly, more in detail. And then the last one is, if overpronated, seek assistance from a podiatrist or get handmade orthotics, like, for example, me. This is what a handmade one would look like, custom specifically to your condition of your own pronation, because I've never personally used off-the-shelf ones that you buy straight away, because your foot is a very complex structure, which I would prefer having one specifically designed for me and my unique foot. But that's what I use for that, and that's helped me. Now, most importantly, what are the long-term fixes that will completely cure your shin splints? So the main thing is to do some strength and conditioning of the soleus, calf muscles, and anterior tibialis. So that's your front shin muscle, which they're all the muscles we mentioned earlier that are being overworked, which cause shin splints. So by way of us conditioning those muscles and tendons and tissue around the shin, we'll be able to help them adjust and adapt to greater volumes of load. So this is truly the way that allowed me to start running pain-free and increase my mileage over time. So 3 exercises that you can do if your shin pain is at the front of the leg is, so for this one, we want to be strengthening the anterior tibialis muscle, because that's what results in that pain in the front of the leg. Now, an example of an exercise you can do is the tibialis wall raises. So this is when you lean up against the wall with your feet away from you and you start lifting your feet towards your body, just up and down. Now, the further you lower yourself down, leaning against the wall, the harder it is, because now you're increasing the range of motion of your foot. And I usually do that I do as many reps as it takes for me to start to feel a burn in the front of my shins. And I go a little bit past that until I can't do it anymore. And I do that for 3 sets. Now, another form is ankle curls. So this is where you use a resistance band. You lie on the ground, elevating your foot off the ground, and you put a band around your foot, and you use your other hand to pull it. And what you want to do is you want to start pushing your foot forwards against it as resistance. Now, I do that for 1 minute on each leg. I do it for 3 sets, and I do it until I feel a burn sensation as well in that 1 minute. And to increase the difficulty, you can use a heavier band, or you can increase the duration, or you can start using a kettlebell on the end of your foot. Now, 3 exercises for medial shin splint pain. That's when it's on the inside of the leg. Now, one is the soleus calf raises. So important that when we do these, it's different from just a normal calf raise, as we're doing this on an elevated surface. So you can use a step. I prefer to use a 10K weighted plate on the ground, as I feel like it gives me more stability because I'm closer to the ground. And the reason why we use it on an elevated surface is because it targets more of the soleus muscle and allows us to increase that range of motion of the calf muscle to do so, because it's a deeper muscle of the calf. Now, I would do 10 reps and 3 sets, as I found that helped me, and that's what I prescribed to my sister, and it's helped her. And you can start off with body weight and increase the difficulty by using dumbbells and increasing the weight from that point, where you should always aim to, it should be always difficult every time you do it. Like, you should be trying to mimic that burning pain as much as you can. And if it becomes too easy, just increase the difficulty. Now, another example is you can use toe in and toe out calf raises. So using the same elevated surface, instead positioning your toes inwards for 10 raises, and then positioning them out for 10 as well. Now, I would do 3 sets of this, and then you can increase the difficulty by adding weights. And the last exercise you can implement is a single-legged soleus calf raises. So it's the same as the first one that we mentioned, but instead you're just doing it on one leg, increasing a little bit more, isolating a little bit more of the load onto one leg. Now, the last thing that we want to do is to release tension built up and increase mobility in the area after we work out, and we use those parts of our legs. Now, I do this by doing downward dog, rotating the calves. I do that for 5 reps each leg, pausing between each completion of those 5 reps. So just holding it at that end, getting a bit more of that stretch, and then repeating for 3 sets. Another one is I found using a foam roller to massage my calves pretty helpful by rolling up and down, specifically on the lower part where your soleus is located, that I've found. Now this is for your medial tibialis, turning the calf more inwards as I roll in to target more of the inner calf, so your gastro, and also rolling on the outer one as well. Now, the last stretch that I like to do to specifically target the anterior tibialis is I like to do a kneeling stretch. So that's when you kneel on the ground and then you start moving your glutes going to sit onto your feet. So the closer you go to your feet, the more the stretch. And if you find that you can get your glutes all the way to be touching your feet and you still need a little bit more tension to be applied, then what you can do from that position is now you start to lift up your knees and then hold that position as high as you can go for, I like to do 30 seconds, 3 sets of that. And for the last thing that I want to leave you with is when you have cured your shin splints and now they're gone, you don't stop implementing all the things that it took for you to get rid of them, because like what they say, if you don't use it, you lose it. So if you stop doing the exercises that strengthen up the parts of the muscles that are a part of your shins that were causing your shin splints, then eventually over time, they'll weaken and go back to the strength they were before, and then you lose that strength, and then you get the shin splints back again. So don't do that. Now, if you got something out of this video and you want to support the channel, then I encourage you to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and leave a comment down below on other video ideas that you would like to see in the future. And also, I encourage you to follow my Instagram and Strava page to follow my running quest further. Now, as always, it's never too late to start your dreams.